Hello, I'm Carolyn Monahan, Director of Marketing and Communications for the West Coast Chamber. Today's member question of the day is about workplace culture and how businesses can support their employees in the workplace. I am joined by CJ Kingdom-Grier, who is Chief Executive Officer at Kingdom-Grier and Associates. In addition to being trained and certified in cultural intelligence through David Livermore's Cultural Intelligence Center, CJ is a member of the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education, president of the Alliance for Ethnic and Cultural Harmony, which has a membership of over 1,300 people in the greater West Michigan area. So I want to offer a warm welcome to CJ Kingdom-Grier.
Carolyn, thank you very much, and thank West Coast Chamber of Commerce for inviting me for this conversation.
We are seeing so many companies really committing to making diversity and inclusivity a priority. How can businesses do a better job of supporting their employees in a truly authentic way?
So one word, and that is belonging. Thank you very much. This has been enjoyable. No, right. It's not magic. It really is making somebody feel welcomed and belonged. Feelings of security and support, acceptance, inclusion, identity, which is what everybody wants. They want that in a family. They want that in a religious organization. People desire all of those things, and that's really what companies historically have had difficulty with, especially when it comes to those who are not in the dominant culture. And it's difficult to impose like a template for this because specifically in this region and really around the country, we have a tendency to hire people that will fit in to our workplace culture. And we even support the employee in fitting into the existing workplace culture. Since it's Black History Month, I brought a few of my objects from my vast collection, and I'll be focusing on how you might do this with your African American constituents, employees, members. But the truth of the matter is this is for anybody who is on the margins, right? Anybody who is the non-dominant one. There are 5 areas that start with R that I want to encourage employers to think about. Research, which has all to do with knowing. Remembering, or recall, which has all to do with naming. Reparadigming, which has everything to do with reimagining. Rehearsing, which has to do with praxis or the practice another way, and then reminding, and that really has to do with policy and parameters. So when it comes to research, it really is about knowing the history of other cultures, especially in this country. It's not taught in schools historically, systematically. It's not taught in homes or even religious institutions on a grand scale. So because it's not taught as primary text, we must know the history of those on the margins. We have to know that slavery was a real thing and its historical and contemporary ills that are really binding relationships today. When we talk about remembering or recalling, it really is about naming it, right? It's not just about knowing it. Knowing it is one piece, but it's about naming it. What does it mean for the fabric of America, the American industry and American business, to be rife with things like colonialism, with chattel slavery, with internment camps? What does it mean for us to have a pedagogy of oppression? We have to name the things that are ills in us and in our organizations so that we can do better in reparadigming, reimagining. Joy DeGraw writes about epigenetics. She says that even though Blacks today were not slaves, the last slaves have passed away, there's something in the DNA that remembers the trauma of that. And there are things, that patterns, there are organizations that still continue to keep that mindset. Our parents and grandparents had at their table things that demeaned, that provided a picture, if you will, in things of oppression. Those kind of things we have to reimagine, because we have systematically, from our syrup to our everything, we've systematically thought about Blacks as the other. And so we have to reimagine the stereotypes. I think, but we also have to rehearse. And rehearsing is seeking new ways, it's seeking new patterns. It's our practice must change in order to change the narrative. Let me say that this is not just the narrative of the dominant culture. People on the margins also, because of TV and movies, because of pop culture, have also brought into the lies that say other people are less than. And so because they themselves have brought into it, we all need a reimagining, a rehearsing of new ways to think about it. So it's reckoning with that as rehearsing. And then it's reminding. What is reminding? Reminding is policy. It's parameters, it's guidelines and goalposts, right? This is what we will allow. This is what we cannot do. Think of sexual harassment policies, right? They are put in place to say, yeah, we can't do this. We won't do that. That's what reminding looks like as it relates to belonging. As part of the National Association for Diversity Officers in Higher Education, we actually created term and the office CDO, Chief Diversity Officer, right? One that would be responsible for that kind of thing, right? When I was working at Western Theological Seminary, we used to use the word cultural sensitivity. That was our baseline, right? And I invited them to reimagine another word. I said, do we want our CFO, do we want our Vice President for Finance to be fiscally sensitive? Or do we want him to be fiscally competent? I said, that's the difference in how you handle this issue. Do you want your people to tolerate differences and tolerate people, or do you want them to be competent in ways that increases productivity, that increases product, that increases feelings of belonging? The measurement of belonging is not in the eye of the dominant culture. It's not measured. They have nothing to do with the empirical data that we use to evaluate belonging. It is always from those on the margins, those who are historically excluded, those who don't feel those first 6 things that I talked about, the acceptance, the connectivity. That's what companies are looking for people who love working there, not because they fit into what they've imagined the work culture is, but because they belong to a community, to an organization, to a family, no matter how small or how large it is. That's what companies, I think, are looking for, and that's what people are looking for.
Thank you very much, CJ, for being with me today. I've learned a lot and hope to have an opportunity to talk to you some more in the future.
I appreciate that. Thank you.